Introduction. In the vast cinematic landscape of 2025, where genre blending has become more daring than ever, The Ugly Stepsister emerges as a bold and complex film that walks the razor's edge between grotesque horror, biting social satire, intimate character study, and tragic family drama. Set in a hyper-stylized fantasy world obsessed with beauty and perfection, the film explores the psychological descent of Elvira, a young woman tormented by her stepsister's beauty and society's relentless standards. While the title evokes fairy tale imagery recalling Cinderella's cruel stepsisters, this film reimagines that archetype from a far more tragic and nuanced perspective. The Ugly Stepsister is not merely a twisted fairy tale. It is a portrait of internalized self-loathing, obsession, sibling rivalry, and the extremes people go to for love and acceptance. The film's strongest asset is its willingness to embrace discomfort and contradiction, melding comedy with horror and satire with sincerity while telling the story of a young woman consumed by the pursuit of physical beauty and romantic validation. ###plot overview. Elvira, our protagonist, is introduced as an awkward, cynical, and socially isolated woman who lives in the shadow of her stunning stepsister, Giselle. Giselle is a picture of grace and allure, a woman celebrated by everyone in their glittering kingdom-like society where external appearance dictates one's worth. Raised under the same roof but treated vastly differently, Elvira develops a simmering resentment not only towards her sister but toward the entire system that rewards beauty with love, success, and happiness. Elvira's obsession intensifies when a royal ball is announced and the dashing and elusive Prince Armand arrives to choose his bride. Predictably, Giselle is among the most sought-after guests. Elvira, who has long fantasized about love and attention, becomes fixated on capturing the prince's heart not merely as an act of rebellion but as a final validation of her worth. But when mere dresses, makeup, and charm aren't enough, Elvira turns to more extreme methods. Her descent into vanity and madness is driven by dark magic, forbidden surgeries, grotesque beauty rituals, and finally, violence. What begins as comedy, an underdog attempting to glow up into a princess, turns into horror as Elvira mutilates her body, manipulates others, and spirals into obsession and delusion. The climax of the film, set at the Royal Masquerade, is a surreal and haunting spectacle where masks fall, literally and metaphorically, and Elvira's transformation reaches its peak. By then, she is unrecognizable both to herself and the prince she once adored. What follows is a heartbreaking, chilling, and oddly redemptive finale that leaves viewers reeling. ###themes and analysis. ###1. Beauty as power and prison. At its core, The Ugly Stepsister is a brutal commentary on society's fixation with beauty. The film deconstructs the fairy tale ideal where beauty equals virtue and ugliness equals evil. Elvira is neither good nor bad, she is a product of neglect, comparison, and cultural obsession. Her ugliness is not just physical, it is a psychological wound festering in the absence of love. The kingdom's rigid beauty hierarchy becomes a character in itself, omnipresent and inescapable. From billboard-like magic mirrors to potion-selling witches, everyone profits from insecurity. Elvira's desperation to be desired transforms her body into a battleground. Through her grotesque transformations, the film raises unsettling questions. What are we willing to sacrifice to be seen? Is beauty empowerment or entrapment? ###2. Sibling rivalry and inherited trauma. The relationship between Elvira and Giselle is complex. While Giselle initially appears to be a classic, perfect sister, the film slowly reveals her own struggles. She is not cruel or condescending but rather oblivious and trapped in her role as the beautiful one. The sisters' conflict is less about direct malice and more about miscommunication, envy, and unmet needs. Their dynamic mirrors real-life sibling tension, love entangled with resentment, competition with longing. In several key flashbacks, we see moments where Elvira wanted to connect but was brushed aside not because Giselle was evil but because society only had room for one spotlight. Their tragedy lies in their inability to see each other beyond the labels imposed upon them. ###3. The horror of transformation. As Elvira undergoes physical changes, some magical, others surgical, the film leans into body horror territory. Skin peels, eyes bleed, limbs stretch, and bones are reshaped. These scenes, while exaggerated, are metaphors for real-world beauty treatments taken to the extreme. The body horror is not just visual, it's emotional. Each procedure chips away at Elvira's humanity, mirroring her psychological disintegration. Her final transformation is horrifying not because she becomes a monster but because she believes she has become perfect. The tragedy is that she no longer sees the difference between self-improvement and self-destruction. The horror lies in watching someone mutilate themselves in pursuit of an unattainable ideal applauded all the way by a toxic society. #4. Satire and comedy in darkness. While the film is deeply unsettling at times, it never loses its comedic edge. The humor is dark, ironic, and often self-aware. Magical plastic surgeons with fairy wands, talking mirrors that insult their viewers, and fashion potions that come with horrifying side effects all highlight the absurdity of beauty culture. One standout scene features Elvira attending a charm school where girls learn how to laugh, cry, and faint in the most photogenic way. These sequences are hilarious on the surface but carry an undercurrent of pain, mocking the artificiality of femininity as performance. The comedy in The Ugly Stepsister is not just for laughs, it is a scalpel dissecting the systems that create monsters like Elvira. #character study. #Elvira. Elvira is one of the most compelling anti-heroines in recent cinema. She's at once pitiful and terrifying, relatable and alienating. Her journey is not about becoming beautiful, it is about the belief that she must be beautiful to matter. She begins as a sarcastic loner, then evolves into a driven competitor, then a desperate seeker, and finally, a tragic monster. What makes Elvira unforgettable is her sincerity. She doesn't want to destroy the world, she just wants to be loved. But in trying to fit into a mold that was never meant for her, she loses herself. Her final breakdown, where she can no longer remember her original face, is a haunting commentary on identity loss. #Giselle. Giselle is more than the pretty sister. The film gives her surprising depth, especially in the second half. She is not vain but exhausted by the pedestal she's been placed on. She envies Elvira's freedom and resents being seen only for her looks. When she finally confronts Elvira in the third act, the exchange is devastating, a moment of truth between two sisters who were always victims of the same system. #Prince Armand. Armand serves as both a love interest and a symbol. He is charming, polite, and empty. He represents societal approval more than real love. Elvira's obsession with him is less about who he is and more about what he stands for: acceptance, admiration, and validation. His indifference toward Elvira even after her transformation underscores the film's message: changing for someone else never guarantees love. Cinematography and visual style. Visually, The Ugly Stepsister is a marvel. The set design blends opulent fairy tale castles with gothic horror elements. The color palette shifts with Elvira's transformation, starting with muted grays and browns, then slowly infusing garish pinks, metallics, and blood reds as her madness grows. Mirrors are a recurring motif, symbolizing self-perception and distortion. Director of photography uses tight close-ups to capture Elvira's emotional unraveling and wide frames to highlight her loneliness in crowds. The masquerade scene, with its swirling masks and shifting identities, is visually breathtaking, a fever dream that mirrors Elvira's fractured psyche. Soundtrack and score. The film's score is another standout feature, composed with eerie lullabies, discordant strings, and whimsical motifs that grow darker as the story unfolds. The music mirrors Elvira's journey, starting playfully then descending into chaos. One memorable musical cue involves a twisted variation of the Cinderella Waltz, played during Elvira's failed dance with the prince. The sound design also plays with contrast. Moments of silence are followed by sudden shrieks, exaggerated giggles morph into screams, and romantic music overlays scenes of horror, amplifying the unease. Strengths. Complex protagonist. Elvira is a deeply flawed but empathetic character. Genre blending. The film masterfully mixes horror, comedy, and drama. Visual style. Stunning cinematography and art direction that enhance the story. Thematic depth. Offers sharp social commentary on beauty standards and self-worth. Unpredictable plot. Keeps the viewer engaged through twists, tone shifts, and emotional beats. Weaknesses. Uneven pacing. Some middle scenes feel repetitive or overly indulgent in satire. Lack of background characters. Aside from the main trio, other characters feel underdeveloped. Ambiguous ending. While emotionally powerful, the ending may leave some viewers unsatisfied or confused. Conclusion. The Ugly Stepsister is a bold, unsettling, and deeply human film that dares to ask uncomfortable questions. What is the cost of beauty? Who gets to be loved? Can transformation heal, or does it only hide the wounds? By reimagining a fairy tale villain as a tragic heroine, the film forces us to confront our own biases about appearance and worth. It is a film that lingers, not because of its scares or laughs alone, but because of the raw vulnerability at its center. Elvira may be called ugly by the world, but her story is heartbreakingly beautiful.